I don't have anything funny to say today. Welcome to Daily Gospel Reflections. I'm Dr. Ben Safransky. So yesterday we talked about authority and how those who lead must also be those who serve. Well, today Jesus continues on that thread while making it a little bit more specific what it is going to mean for those who follow Christ to serve. It is going to mean walking with him to his death, drinking his chalice of suffering, and suffering a kind of crucifixion along with him. So I want to reflect a little bit about how the stories are put together in today's gospel passage. In the Bible, just like in ancient writing in general, and in good writing in any age, the order of stories and the way they're composed and put together is not accidental. So I want to reflect on the way today's passage is structured. Jesus starts off by talking about how the Son of Man is going to have to go to suffering, be crucified, and die. And what comes right after that? Some of his hearers, actually two of his apostles and their mother, immediately ask him for a glorious reward. Now, to be fair, she does ask that her sons would be given these glorious positions in the next life. So her concern isn't purely earthly. But isn't it still a little strange that right after Christ has talked about how leadership means suffering and death, her first thought is glory for her sons? And how does Christ respond to this? He pulls back from the glory to bring it back to suffering. He asks, will you be able to suffer like I suffer? They say yes, even though they don't know what that means yet. And he says, oh, you're going to suffer. You're going to suffer like I do. And in order to follow me, in order to be a leader, you're going to have to suffer. Now, during Lent, the church, I think, gives us these passages about suffering because of how integral attitudes towards suffering and death are to Christianity. Not because we're masochists or we like to suffer. And that's something that outsiders, sometimes other Christians or non-Christians, think about Christians or Catholics. Sometimes they think that we focus a lot on suffering, maybe to an unhealthy degree. And that probably does happen sometimes. I mean, I think we all know somebody who likes to talk about their suffering, who seems to put themselves in situations where they suffer, or who likes to interpret everything that happens to them as suffering. But real Christianity, real Catholicism, is about finding hope and meaning in the suffering and death that all humans have to face because of sin. That's one thing that I think our world doesn't understand. Our world is very consumed with trying to avoid suffering and ignore or put off death at all costs. That is just it's a refusal to accept what we all ultimately have to accept, which is that we're going to suffer and die. So my challenge for you today is to think about Lent as a period of suffering in view of the glory that is coming afterwards at Easter. So I'd like you to ask yourself, have I suffered for the sake of following Christ? Am I suffering right now for the sake of following Christ? And more importantly, because getting more suffering is not what's most important, ask yourself, have I ever compromised in following Christ because I wanted to avoid suffering? Have I done something that I know is not what Christ would want because I didn't want to face the suffering that would come along with it? I know I have, and I'm going to be meditating on that for myself today. God bless you, and I will see you tomorrow. This is March 16th. This is my son Gregory. It's his 7th birthday today. So if you have a minute, it would be awesome if you could say an extra prayer for him. Thanks.